Welcome back to another peaceful evening recap, where we take our time with stories that touch the heart and soothe the soul. Tonight, we're exploring the misty, rain-soaked world of Twilight, a story about love that transcends the ordinary, set in the small, quiet town of Forks, Washington. This is a tale of first love, of finding your place in the world, and of the gentle magic that happens when two souls recognize each other across impossible circumstances. Based on Stephen E. Meyer's beloved novel, this film invites us into a world where the Pacific Northwest's eternal drizzle creates a soft, dreamlike atmosphere. Here, among the towering evergreen trees and perpetual mist, we meet Bella Swan, a 17-year-old girl who moves from the bright desert of Phoenix to live with her father in this perpetually overcast town. As we settle in together tonight, we'll let ourselves be drawn into this story of quiet transformation, where love blooms slowly like moss on ancient trees, and where the extraordinary hides within the everyday rhythms of small-town life. Let's take our time with this gentle tale of discovery, allowing ourselves to feel the cool dampness of the Washington air, to hear the constant whisper of rain on leaves, and to understand how sometimes the most profound changes in our lives come not with thunder and lightning, but with the soft, persistent rhythm of a heart learning to beat in harmony with another. We first meet Isabella Swan, Bella, as she makes her way through the Seattle airport, her face thoughtful and a little melancholy as she prepares for this major change in her life. She's leaving behind the endless sunshine of Arizona to live with her father, Charlie, in Forks, a town where the sun seems to have forgotten to shine. There's something beautifully bittersweet about this moment. A young woman stepping into uncertainty, carrying only a small bag and a heart full of questions about where she belongs. The drive through the Olympic Peninsula is like entering another world entirely. Ancient forests stretch endlessly on both sides of the road, their branches heavy with moss and moisture. The trees seem to whisper secrets to each other in the gentle breeze, and everything is painted in dozens of shades of green, emerald, jade, forest, sage, colors that speak of life that has been growing slowly and steadily for centuries. This is a landscape that understands patience, that knows how to wait. When Bella arrives at Charlie's modest house, we feel the gentle awkwardness between father and daughter who love each other but haven't learned how to live together. Charlie, played with understated warmth by Billy Burke, shows her to her room with the careful consideration of a man who wants to do right but isn't quite sure how. He's bought her a computer, tried to make the space welcoming, and there's something deeply touching about these small gestures. A parent's quiet love expressed through practical care. Her room overlooks the backyard where the rain creates gentle patterns on the window glass. It's a peaceful space, painted in soft colors that seem to absorb the gray light filtering through the perpetual cloud cover. As Bella unpacks her few belongings, we watch her trying to find her place in this new environment. And there's something universally relatable about that moment when we stand in an unfamiliar room and wonder how we'll transform it into home. The town of Forks itself feels like a place where time moves differently. Main Street is lined with buildings that have weathered decades of Pacific storms, their paint softened by the constant moisture, their signs faded to gentle pastels. People move at an unhurried pace here, stopping to chat with neighbors, taking time to really see each other. It's the kind of place where the barista knows your coffee order and asks about your grandmother's arthritis. Bella's first day at Forks High School unfolds with the particular nervousness that comes with being the new student in a small town where everyone has known each other since kindergarten. The school building is modest and welcoming, surrounded by parking lots where pickup trucks outnumber sedans and where students gather in small groups that have been forming and reforming since childhood. As she navigates the hallways, we meet the classmates who will become her friends. There's Jessica Stanley, played by Anna Kendrick, whose cheerful chatter masks a genuine desire to welcome this newcomer. Mike Newton, with his golden retriever enthusiasm, immediately gravitates toward Bella with a kind of uncomplicated attraction that speaks to her natural warmth. And there's Angela Weber, quiet and observant, the kind of friend who notices when you need a moment to breathe. These early interactions have the gentle rhythm of people feeling their way toward friendship. In the cafeteria, as Bella sits with her new acquaintances, we can feel her trying to find her footing in these social dynamics. The conversation flows around topics that matter deeply to teenagers: who's dating whom, what happened at last weekend's party, plans for the upcoming dance, and Bella listens with the careful attention of someone learning the language of a new place. The school itself has the comfortable, lived-in feeling of a building that has seen generations of students pass through its halls. The classrooms are small enough that everyone knows each other, where teachers call students by name and remember their older siblings. It's the kind of school where the biggest excitement might be a new student arriving, or snow cancelling classes, or the drama club putting on their spring production. And then, in the cafeteria, Bella's attention is drawn to a table near the back windows, where 5 students sit together in what can only be described as their own private world. The Cullen family, adopted siblings who somehow seem to exist on a different plane than everyone else around them. They move with an almost choreographed grace, speak in voices too low to carry, and possess a kind of ethereal beauty that doesn't quite seem to belong in this ordinary high school setting. Alice Cullen, petite and elfin, with her distinctive spiky black hair, speaks in animated whispers to Jasper Hale, whose honey-colored hair catches what little light filters through the cloudy sky. Rosalie Hale sits with the kind of perfect posture that suggests she's never had an awkward moment in her life, her golden hair falling like a curtain of silk. Emmett Cullen, broad-shouldered and warm, grins at something only they can hear, but it's Edward Cullen who captures not just Bella's attention, but ours as well. Robert Pattinson brings to this character a quality that's both magnetic and melancholy, as if he's carrying some beautiful secret that both delights and burdens him. His bronze-colored hair seems to have a life of its own, catching and reflecting light in ways that shouldn't be possible in this grey cafeteria. When he laughs at something, Alice whispers, "The sound is like music drifting across still water." Jessica's voice provides background information about the Cullens, how they're all adopted by Dr. Cullen and his wife Esme, how they keep to themselves, how they're all remarkably beautiful and remarkably strange. But her words fade into white noise as we focus on the way this family seems to exist in a bubble of quiet intimacy, connected to each other in ways that go deeper than ordinary sibling relationships. There's something about the way they move, the way they seem to communicate without words, the way they carry themselves with an old-world elegance that doesn't match their apparent teenage years. They're like a beautiful painting that's somehow come to life and decided to attend high school, and we can understand why Bella finds herself watching them with fascination rather than eating her lunch. When Bella walks into her biology classroom and discovers that the only empty seat is next to Edward Cullen, the atmosphere in the room seems to shift subtly. Edward sits perfectly still at their shared black laboratory table, his marble pale hands folded carefully in front of him. As Bella approaches, we see something like pain flicker across his features. Not physical discomfort, but something deeper, more complex. The tension in this scene isn't dramatic or frightening, but rather like watching two people navigate around an invisible obstacle. Edward's body language speaks of someone fighting an internal battle with extraordinary self-control. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. His breathing becomes deliberate and measured, and yet he manages to maintain the facade of a normal student in a normal biology class. Mr. Banner drones on about cellular structures while Bella attempts to focus on the lesson, but her attention keeps drifting to her lab partner. Edward sits rigid as carved stone, his topaz eyes fixed determinedly on the front of the classroom. When she offers him her notes, when she tries to make normal, friendly conversation, his responses are barely audible monosyllables, delivered without ever quite looking directly at her. There's something almost heartbreaking about watching Edward struggle with what appears to be a simple classroom interaction. We sense layers of complexity beneath his careful politeness, a deep loneliness perhaps, or a longing for normal human connection that circumstances make impossible. His fingers drum silently against the table, and occasionally his eyes close, as if he's concentrating on something far more challenging than identifying onion cells under a microscope. The class period stretches with the particular slowness of time when you are acutely aware of someone sitting 18 inches away from you. Every small movement, the rustle of paper, the squeak of chairs, the scratch of pencils on notebooks, seems amplified in the space between them. When the bell finally rings and Edward disappears from the classroom before Bella has even finished gathering her books, we're left with the lingering sense of a conversation that wanted to happen but couldn't quite find its way into existence. In the days that follow, we watch as Bella's curiosity about Edward Cullen grows into something approaching fascination. He appears in the parking lot each morning, arriving in his silver Volvo with his siblings. And there's something about the way he moves through the school hallways that suggests he's not quite walking on the same ground as everyone else. His grace is too perfect, his beauty too otherworldly, his entire presence somehow both magnetic and mysterious. During lunch periods, Bella finds herself stealing glances at the Cullen table, trying to understand the dynamics of this unusual family. They seem to communicate through subtle glances and almost imperceptible gestures. Alice will touch Jasper's hand, and his posture will relax. Rosalie will shake her head slightly, and Emmett's grin will fade. Edward will nod once, and suddenly they'll all rise in perfect synchronization and glide from the cafeteria as if responding to music only they can hear. The weather in Forks continues its gentle, persistent pattern. Soft rain that mists rather than falls. Clouds that hang low enough to touch the tops of the tallest trees. air that carries the scent of moss and damp earth and growing things. This climate seems to suit the Cullens in a way that's hard to define. They never seem bothered by the lack of sunshine, never complain about the dampness that sends other students hurrying between buildings with hunched shoulders and upturned collars. In her other classes, Bella begins to settle into the rhythm of small-town high school life. She excels in English, where her essays about her reading demonstrate a maturity that impresses her teacher. In history, she finds herself genuinely interested in the local Native American legends that Mr. Bertie incorporates into his lessons about the Pacific Northwest. These stories of ancient tribal connections to the land, of spirits that inhabit the deep forests, of traditional ways of understanding the natural world, seem to resonate with something she's sensing but can't quite articulate about her new home. The friendship with Jessica, Mike, Angela, and the others develops with the gentle ease of people who genuinely like each other. They include her in their plans, invite her to join them for movies in Port Angeles, ask her opinion about things that matter in their teenage world. There's comfort in these normal interactions, in being part of a group where the biggest concerns are upcoming tests and who might ask whom to the spring dance. On a morning when the parking lot is more treacherous than usual, covered with a thin sheet of ice that makes every step uncertain, Bella finds herself in genuine danger. Tyler Crowley's van, sliding helplessly on the icy surface, careens directly towards her with the unstoppable momentum of tons of metal on ice. Time seems to slow as she watches this disaster unfold, her mind registering the impossibility of escape, the certainty of impact, the strange clarity that sometimes comes in moments of absolute crisis. And then Edward is there, not running towards her, not calling out a warning, but simply there beside her, his hand against the van's side, stopping its deadly slide with what appears to be nothing more than gentle pressure. The sound of metal crumpling against his palm is like a whisper rather than a crash. His other arm encircles Bella, lifting her away from harm with a movement so fluid it seems choreographed rather than spontaneous. In the aftermath, as students and teachers rush toward them, with the concerned chaos that follows any accident, Edward's eyes meet Bella's with an intensity that speaks of shared secrets and unspoken questions. His face is perfectly calm, but there's something in his expression, a vulnerability perhaps, or a plea for understanding, that suggests this moment has changed something fundamental between them. The paramedics arrive with their efficient compassion, checking Bella for injuries she doesn't have, asking questions about what happened that she can't quite answer coherently. Edward submits to their examination with patient grace, his responses to their questions so reasonable and ordinary that the impossibility of what just occurred begins to seem like a trick of perception, a mistake born of adrenaline and confusion. Later, in the hospital, Dr. Cullen tends to them both with the kind of gentle professionalism that immediately inspires trust. Played by Peter Fasinelli, Dr. Carlisle Cullen possesses the same otherworldly beauty as his adopted children, but there's also a warmth in his manner, a genuine concern for his patients' well-being that speaks to years of dedicated service. His hands, as he checks Bella's pupils and asks about headaches, are surprisingly cold but incredibly gentle. In the quiet hours at home, with Charlie at work and only the sound of rain against her bedroom windows for company, Bella begins to piece together the fragments of mystery surrounding Edward Cullen and his family. She sits at her computer, the glow of the screen casting soft light across her thoughtful face as she searches for information that might explain what she witnessed in the parking lot. Her research takes her down fascinating paths through local history and folklore. The Olympic Peninsula, she discovers, has been home to indigenous peoples for thousands of years. Their cultures rich with stories about the relationship between humans and the spirit world. The Quileute tribe, whose reservation lies along the nearby coast, has particular legends about creatures that exist between the human and supernatural realms. As she reads, the rain continues its gentle percussion against the glass, and occasionally she pauses to watch the water create intricate patterns as it slides down the window. There's something meditative about this rhythm, something that helps her mind process the impossibilities she's trying to understand. The constant moisture in the air, the way the light filters grey and soft through the perpetual cloud cover, the sense of ancient secrets held in the deep forests, all of it begins to feel connected to the mystery of the Cullens. Her conversations with Jacob Black, when Charlie takes her to visit his old friend Billy Black on the reservation, add another layer to her understanding. Jacob, played by Taylor Lautner, with an easy warmth that immediately puts Bella at ease, shares stories that his elders have passed down through generations. These tales speak of eternal enemies, of ancient treaties, of boundaries that must be respected between different kinds of beings. There's something in Jacob's manner when he speaks of these legends, a respect that goes deeper than simple cultural appreciation, a sense that these stories might be more than mere folklore. His friendship with Bella develops with the comfortable ease of people who understand each other instinctively, and in his presence, she feels the safety of being with someone completely honest and uncomplicated. As winter gradually gives way to the first hints of spring, Bella and Edward's relationship begins to develop beyond the careful politeness of their early interactions. In biology class, they work together on their laboratory assignments with increasing ease, their conversations growing from tentative exchanges about cellular structures to more personal discussions about books they've read, places they've lived, thoughts about the future. Edward's intelligence reveals itself in layers, not just the quick grasp of academic concepts that comes naturally to gifted students, but a deeper wisdom that suggests experience far beyond his apparent 17 years. When they discuss literature, his insights into human nature demonstrate an understanding that feels both profound and slightly melancholy, as if he's observed the human condition from a unique perspective for far longer than should be possible. Their conversations have the particular intensity of two people discovering they understand each other in ways they hadn't expected. When Bella mentions her love of classic literature, Edward's face lights up with genuine pleasure, and they spend an entire lunch period discussing the themes in Wuthering Heights, their voices low and intimate despite the crowded cafeteria around them. There's something beautiful about watching two minds meet over shared intellectual passions, the way ideas can create bridges between souls. The physical awareness between them grows gradually, subtly, like plants reaching towards sunlight. When Edward hands Bella a pencil and their fingers accidentally touch, both of them react as if the brief contact carries an electrical charge. When he holds a door for her and she passes close enough to catch his scent, something clean and fresh like mountain air and cedar. She finds herself momentarily breathless in a way that has nothing to do with the pace of her walking. These small moments accumulate like morning dew, each one barely noticeable, but together creating something beautiful and transformative. Edward seems to be fighting some internal battle about allowing this closeness, his expressions alternating between joy and what looks almost like pain, as if their growing connection brings him equal measures of happiness and torment. Spring in Forks brings subtle changes to the eternal landscape of green and grey. The rain becomes gentler, more intermittent, and occasionally the clouds part to reveal patches of blue sky that seem almost shocking in their brightness. The forest around the town awakens with new growth, and the air carries the fresh scent of unfurling fern fronds and emerging wildflowers. It's during one of these brighter days that Edward makes a decision that will change everything between them. He approaches Bella after biology class with something that might be nervousness flickering in his usually composed features. His invitation to spend the day with him away from school, away from the curious eyes of their classmates, carries the weight of something significant about to unfold. The drive to their destination takes them deep into the Olympic National Forest, along winding roads that climb through stands of ancient Douglas firs and western red cedars. Edward's silver Volvo handles the curves with effortless grace, and classical music plays softly from the speakers, pieces that seem to match the rhythm of the forest itself, complex and beautiful and somehow timeless. As they walk together along a trail that seems to have been carved by deer rather than human feet, their conversation flows with increasing intimacy. Edward speaks about his adoptive family with deep affection, describing Dr. Cullen and Esme as people who have given him and his siblings something precious beyond measure. Not just a home, but a way of living that honors both their unusual nature and their desire to maintain connections with the human world. The forest around them seems to listen to their words, the tall trees creating a natural cathedral where their voices blend with the soft sounds of birds and the whisper of wind through branches heavy with moss. Shafts of sunlight, when they break through the canopy, illuminate the forest floor in patterns that shift and dance like living art. This is a place where profound conversations can happen naturally, where the beauty of the natural world encourages honesty and vulnerability. When they reach the meadow, the world seems to transform around them. This hidden clearing, surrounded by towering evergreens and filled with wildflowers that have been waiting all winter for this moment of sun, feels like a secret garden that exists outside of ordinary time and space. The grass is soft and inviting, dotted with purple lupines, Indian paintbrush, and delicate white trilliums that seem to glow in the filtered sunlight. Here, in this place of natural beauty and perfect privacy, Edward begins to reveal the truth about himself and his family. The words come slowly at first, carefully chosen, as if he's navigating through a conversation he's rehearsed in his mind, but never actually expected to have. When he steps into the direct sunlight and his skin begins to shimmer like thousands of tiny diamonds, the effect is not frightening, but breathtakingly beautiful. A visual confirmation of the otherworldly quality that Bella has sensed but never been able to define. His explanation of what he is unfolds with the measured pace of someone sharing a truth so fundamental that each word must be carefully considered. He speaks of immortality not as a gift, but as a condition that brings both extraordinary abilities and profound limitations. The thirst for blood that defines his kind is described not with drama, but with the quiet resignation of someone who has learned to live with an unchangeable aspect of his nature. The Cullen family's choice to sustain themselves on animal blood rather than human blood is presented as a difficult but unwavering commitment to maintaining their humanity despite their supernatural nature. Edward describes the discipline required for this lifestyle, the constant vigilance needed to resist more primal urges, the way his family has created their own moral code that allows them to live among humans without causing harm. As he speaks, Bella listens with the kind of complete attention that comes when someone shares their deepest truth with you. Her responses demonstrate not fear but a growing understanding of the complexity of Edward's existence. She begins to comprehend the loneliness he's carried, the weight of being different in ways that require constant concealment, the yearning for genuine connection with someone who can know him completely and accept what he is. In the days that follow their conversation in the meadow, Bella and Edward's relationship enters a new phase built on complete honesty and growing trust. The knowledge of what Edward is doesn't create distance between them, but rather removes the last barriers to true intimacy. They spend hours together, walking through the forests around Forks, sitting by the river that runs behind Bella's house, talking about everything and nothing with the ease of people who no longer need to guard their words. Edward shares stories from his long existence, not the dramatic adventures one might expect from someone who has lived for over a century, but quiet observations about how the world has changed, how human nature remains constant despite technological progress, how he spent decades learning to find joy in small, everyday beauties that most people overlook. His perspective on time is different from Bella's. He notices patterns that emerge over decades, appreciates the slow rhythm of seasons cycling through years, finds peace in the patient way that forests grow and rivers carve their paths through stone. Bella, in turn, shares her own dreams and fears with the openness of someone who has found a safe harbor for her most vulnerable thoughts. She talks about her childhood moving between her parents, her sense of never quite belonging anywhere until now, her love of reading as a way to experience lives beyond her own limited experience. Edward listens with the complete attention of someone who has learned that human lives, brief as they are, contain infinite depths of meaning and beauty. Their physical relationship develops with exquisite care and tenderness. Edward's supernatural strength means that every touch must be measured, every caress carefully controlled. This necessity creates an intimacy built on absolute trust and mindfulness. When he holds her hand, the coolness of his skin becomes a comfort rather than a shock. When he kisses her, the gentleness required by his nature transforms what could be simple teenage romance into something transcendent. The contrast between Edward's eternal existence and Bella's mortal life adds poignancy to their every moment together. Each kiss, each shared laugh, each quiet conversation carries the weight of being precious and finite. This awareness doesn't create urgency, but rather a deep appreciation for the gift of their connection, a recognition that love like this exists outside the normal boundaries of time and circumstance. When Edward finally brings Bella to meet the Cullen family at their home, the experience unfolds like stepping into a carefully orchestrated symphony of supernatural domesticity. The Cullen house, nestled among the tall trees, with walls of glass that bring the forest inside, represents a perfect synthesis of otherworldly elegance and genuine warmth. Every detail speaks to the family's unique nature. From the grand piano that Edward plays with centuries of accumulated skill to the kitchen that's clearly designed for show rather than the consumption of food, Dr. Carlyle Cullen and Esme receive Bella with the gracious hospitality of people who understand that welcoming their son's beloved is a sacred responsibility. Esme, played by Elizabeth Reeser, radiates maternal warmth despite her youthful appearance, and her joy in Edward's happiness is evident in every gesture. She moves through their beautiful home with the unconscious grace of someone who has had decades to perfect the art of creating spaces that nurture love and family bonds. Alice Cullen embraces Bella's arrival with the enthusiasm of someone who has already seen the friendship that will develop between them. Ashley Greene brings a sparkle to Alice that suggests constant delight in the beautiful complexities of existence. Her gift for seeing possible futures means she's been anticipating this meeting, and her excitement is infectious as she shares visions of shopping trips and sisterly confidences that await them. Jasper Hale, played by Jackson Rathbone, maintains careful distance initially, not from unfriendliness, but from his particular challenge with Bella's human scent. His struggle with their dietary choice is more recent than the others, and his concern for Bella's safety demonstrates the genuine care this family feels for each other's well-being. The way the other family members support him through this difficulty shows their understanding that love sometimes means making difficult choices to protect those we cherish. Even Rosalie Hale, despite her initial reservations about Bella's presence in their lives, displays the fierce protectiveness that defines the Cullen family dynamic. Nikki Reed brings complexity to Rosalie, showing us someone whose apparent coldness masks deep concerns about the dangers their world might bring to someone as fragile and precious as a human being. Emmett Cullen, with Kellen Lutz's natural warmth, treats Bella with the gentle teasing of a big brother who has already accepted her as family. His easy laughter and generous spirit help create an atmosphere where Bella can begin to feel comfortable despite the supernatural circumstances. The way he plays the piano with Edward, their duet filling the house with music that seems to embody joy itself, shows how this family has learned to find happiness in their unique existence. As Bella becomes more integrated into the Cullen family's world, new complexities arise that test the strength of her relationship with Edward. The arrival of other vampires, nomads who don't share the Cullens' commitment to their alternative lifestyle, creates tensions that remind everyone how precarious their carefully constructed peaceful existence really is. James, Victoria, and Laurent represent a different approach to vampire existence, one focused on the thrill of the hunt and the satisfaction of predatory instincts. James, in particular, becomes intrigued by Bella not as a person, but as an interesting challenge, a human who is protected by a coven of vampires, creating a puzzle that appeals to his hunting instincts. The threat they represent forces the Cullen family to confront difficult decisions about how to protect Bella without compromising their principles. The discussions that unfold in their living room have the weight of a family council where every voice matters, but where the stakes involve life and death. Carlyle's leadership during this crisis demonstrates the wisdom that comes from centuries of experience, while the younger members of the family struggle with their desire to protect their newest family member. Edward's reaction to the danger facing Bella reveals the depth of his feelings and the complexity of loving someone whose mortality makes them vulnerable in ways he can barely contemplate. His protective instincts war with his respect for Bella's autonomy, creating internal conflict that manifests in moments of almost unbearable tension. The way he holds himself responsible for bringing danger into her life shows his deep sense of honor and his fear that loving her might ultimately harm her. The plan to keep Bella safe requires her to trust people she barely knows with her life, to leave behind everything familiar and rely completely on the protection of beings whose true nature she's only beginning to understand. Her willingness to do this demonstrates not recklessness, but rather the kind of complete trust that can only exist between souls who recognize each other as essential to their existence. Bella's journey to Phoenix with Alice and Jasper unfolds like a surreal road trip where the stakes couldn't be higher, but the companions couldn't be more devoted to her safety. Alice's ability to see potential futures means their route changes constantly as she navigates around possibilities that could lead to danger, creating a travel experience that's both strangely aimless and absolutely purposeful. In the Arizona sunshine, so different from the eternal gray of Forks, Alice and Jasper reveal more of their individual personalities. Alice's fashion sense, her delight in trying to improve Bella's wardrobe, her excitement about the possibilities she sees for Bella's future with Edward. All of it demonstrates how completely she's embraced her role as sister and protector. Her joy in small pleasures, despite the gravity of their situation, shows how the Cullen family has learned to find happiness even in challenging circumstances. Jasper's gift for influencing emotions becomes a comfort rather than a threat, as he helps Bella manage the anxiety and fear that would otherwise overwhelm her. His careful attention to her emotional state, his gentle adjustments to help her find calm in chaos, demonstrates the way supernatural abilities can be used to nurture and protect rather than control or harm. The hotel where they wait feels suspended outside of normal time, a place where Bella can rest and reflect on how completely her life has changed. The conversations she has with Alice about love, family, and the choices that define our lives take on deeper meaning given their circumstances. Here, in this temporary sanctuary, Bella begins to truly understand what it means to be part of the Cullen family, not just loved by Edward, but protected and cherished by all of them. When James's deception draws Bella away from her protectors, her decision to face potential death rather than allow her mother to be harmed demonstrates the courage that has been growing in her throughout her time in Forks. This isn't the reckless bravery of someone who doesn't understand consequences, but the conscious choice of someone who values others' lives above her own safety. The abandoned dance studio in Phoenix, with its wall of mirrors reflecting infinite versions of reality, becomes the setting for a confrontation that strips away all pretense and reveals the genuine stakes of Bella's love for Edward. James's cat and mouse game with her his pleasure in the psychological torment of his hunt, shows the darkness that the Cullen family has rejected in choosing their alternative lifestyle. When Edward arrives with his family to rescue Bella, their coordination demonstrates years of fighting together as a unit. But their restraint shows their commitment to protecting human life even while defending their own family. The violence that erupts is brief and purposeful rather than gratuitous, focused on stopping a threat rather than seeking revenge. Edward's desperate tenderness as he tends to Bella's injuries reveals the depth of his terror at nearly losing her. His willingness to consider ending her mortal life to save her from James's venom shows how completely her well-being has become more important to him than his own principles about the sanctity of human life. The internal agony he experiences, torn between wanting to preserve her humanity and needing to preserve her existence, demonstrates the impossible choices that love sometimes requires. The family's decision to tell the hospital staff that Bella fell down 2 flights of stairs and through a window shows their ability to create believable explanations for supernatural events. But more importantly, it shows their commitment to protecting her reputation and relationships in the human world. They understand that preserving her connection to her father, her friends, her normal life is part of truly caring for her well-being. During Bella's recovery from her injuries, the gentleness with which Edward cares for her reveals new depths to his character. His patience with her physical limitations, his willingness to simply sit with her during the long hours when pain makes sleep difficult, his careful attention to her comfort. All of it shows how completely he's embraced his role as her protector and partner. The conversations they have during these quiet hours take on special intimacy. With the immediate danger past and the future stretching before them full of uncertainty, they talk about dreams and possibilities with the precious knowledge that their love has survived its first real test. Edward's descriptions of the life he envisions for them, his careful consideration of how to honor both her humanity and their supernatural love, show his deep respect for the complexity of their situation. Bella's own reflections during her recovery reveal her growing understanding of what she's chosen. Her love for Edward isn't diminished by her brush with the darker aspects of his world, but rather deepened by her recognition of how much he and his family have sacrificed to keep her safe. She begins to comprehend the true meaning of the protection they've offered her, not just physical safety, but the commitment to preserve everything about her life that's worth preserving. The medical care she receives from Dr. Cullen takes on additional meaning as she realizes how many humans he's healed over the centuries, how he's used his supernatural abilities in service of preserving mortal life. His gentle professionalism with her injuries demonstrates the way the Cullen family has found purpose in their eternal existence through service to others. When Edward asks Bella to attend the spring dance with him, the invitation carries weight beyond typical teenage romance. This public appearance together represents their decision to claim their relationship openly, to stop hiding their connection from their community. For Edward, who has spent decades maintaining careful distance from human attachments, this choice signifies a fundamental shift in how he's willing to engage with the world. Bella's preparation for the dance, with Alice's enthusiastic assistance, becomes a celebration of transformation, The dress Alice chooses, the careful attention to hair and makeup, the excitement of preparing for a special evening, all of it represents Bella's embrace of this new version of herself, someone who belongs both in the human world and in the supernatural realm of the Cullens. The dance itself unfolds with the magical quality of a perfect evening. Edward's natural grace makes him an extraordinary dance partner, and their movements together on the dance floor demonstrate the harmony they've found despite the differences in their natures. Other couples swirl around them, but in many ways they exist in their own private world, connected by the music and by the joy of being together openly for the first time. Edward's tenderness with Bella throughout the evening, the way he makes sure she's comfortable despite her casted leg, his attention to her enjoyment, his obvious pride in being her partner, shows how completely he's committed to making her happy. When they step outside for moments of private conversation under the stars, their words carry the weight of promises being made for an uncertain but hopeful future. The other students' acceptance of their relationship, their friends' happiness for Bella's obvious joy, demonstrates how love can transform not just the people directly involved, but the entire community around them. Jessica's genuine pleasure in Bella's happiness, Mike's good-natured acceptance of Edward's place in Bella's life, the teacher's smiles as they watch the couple dance, all of it shows how authentic love creates ripples of positivity that touch everyone nearby. In the quiet weeks that follow the dance, as spring deepens into the promise of summer in Forks, Bella and Edward's relationship settles into rhythms that feel both extraordinary and surprisingly natural. Their love has been tested by danger and has emerged stronger, more certain, more willing to face the complexities that their different natures will always bring to their connection. Edward's music becomes a constant backdrop to their time together. He plays for her on the grand piano in the Cullen house, his fingers moving across the keys with the accumulated skill of decades, creating melodies that seem to capture the essence of their love. Complex, beautiful, sometimes melancholy, always profound. When he composes pieces inspired by her, the music carries emotions too deep for words, harmonies that speak to the way their souls have recognized each other across the vast differences in their natures. Their conversations during these peaceful times reveal the depth of consideration they're both giving to their future together. Edward's reluctance to transform Bella into a vampire isn't born of any doubt about his love for her, but rather from his deep understanding of what immortality truly means. He's lived long enough to comprehend the weight of eternity, the way endless years can change a person's relationship with time, with meaning, with the precious fragility that makes mortal life so intensely beautiful. Bella's own contemplation of immortality demonstrates her growing maturity and her genuine understanding of what she would be choosing. Her desire to join Edward in his eternal existence isn't the impulsive wish of infatuation, but rather the carefully considered decision of someone who has found her true home in loving him. She's thought through the implications, the necessity of leaving her father, her human friends, the normal life milestones she's always assumed she would experience. The way they navigate these profound questions together shows the respect they've developed for each other's perspectives. Edward never dismisses Bella's desire for transformation, even though it conflicts with his protective instincts. Bella never minimizes Edward's concerns about the darkness that immortality might bring to her soul. Instead, they approach these conversations with the patience of people who understand that love sometimes requires accepting that the most important decisions can't be rushed. As Bella spends more time integrated into the Cullen family's daily existence, we see the beautiful complexity of relationships that have had decades to develop and deepen. Each family member has found their own way to contribute to their shared life, their individual gifts and personalities, creating a harmony that's both supernatural and profoundly human in its warmth and mutual support. Esme's role as the heart of the family becomes more apparent as we watch her gentle guidance of their household, her love for Carlisle, her maternal care for her adopted children, her immediate acceptance of Bella as part of their family. All of it demonstrates how immortality can be used to perfect the art of loving others. The restoration projects she takes on around their house reflect her gift for taking broken things and making them beautiful again, a talent that extends to her ability to help heal the emotional wounds that each family member carried from their human lives. Carlisle's work at the hospital represents more than just maintaining their cover in the human community. It's the expression of his fundamental belief that their supernatural abilities should be used in service of preserving and protecting mortal life. His gentle mentorship of the younger family members, his patient wisdom in navigating the ethical complexities of their existence, his unwavering commitment to their chosen lifestyle. All of it shows how immortality can be transformed from a burden into a gift when it's dedicated to purposes larger than oneself. The romantic relationships within the family, Carlisle and Esme's enduring love, Alice and Jasper's deep connection, Rosalie and Emmett's passionate devotion, provide examples of how supernatural love can mature and deepen over decades. These couples have had time to work through every possible conflict, to discover every facet of each other's personalities, to build intimacy that's both profound and playful. Alice's friendship with Bella develops into something precious and sisterly, based not just on Alice's visions of their future together, but on genuine affection and understanding. Their shopping expeditions become opportunities for conversations about love, family, and the choices that define our lives. Alice's delight in having another woman in the family to share her interests shows how much she's been hoping for exactly this kind of companionship. Even Rosalie's initial distance from Bella gradually softens as she recognizes the genuine nature of Bella's love for Edward and her serious consideration of what joining their family would mean. Rosalie's protective instincts, once focused on preventing Bella from making what she saw as a terrible mistake, begin to shift toward wanting to ensure that if Bella does choose transformation, she does so with full understanding of both the gifts and the costs involved. Summer in Forks brings subtle changes to the eternal green landscape. Longer days that still rarely see direct sunlight, warmer temperatures that make the perpetual moisture feel less oppressive and more like a gentle embrace. The forest around the town becomes even more lush, with ferns growing waist-high and moss creating soft carpets under the towering trees. This is the season when the Olympic Peninsula reveals its most generous beauty, when every shade of green imaginable can be found within a single view. Bella and Edward spend these longer days exploring the wilderness around Forks, hiking trails that lead to hidden waterfalls, sitting by streams that run clear and cold from mountain snow, discovering meadows full of wildflowers that bloom in the brief intensity of the Pacific Northwest summer. Edward's knowledge of the area, accumulated over years of exploration, allows him to show Bella secret places where they can be completely alone with their love and the natural world. These outdoor adventures become opportunities for deeper intimacy as they learn to be together in the pristine beauty of places where no other humans ever venture. Edward's supernatural abilities allow him to carry Bella to overlook she could never reach on her own, to show her views of the Olympic mountains that take her breath away, to share with her the profound peace that comes from being small in the presence of ancient, enduring beauty. The physical challenges of some of these adventures, steep climbs, river crossings, navigating through dense forest, become metaphors for the challenges they're facing in building a relationship that bridges two completely different kinds of existence. Just as Edward's strength and sure-footedness can help Bella reach places she couldn't access alone, her humanity and mortal perspective help him rediscover wonder in experiences he'd begun to take for granted. During their quiet moments in these wild places, surrounded by the sounds of water and wind and birdsong, their conversations turn to dreams and possibilities for their future together. Edward speaks tentatively about places he'd like to show her if she chooses immortality. Cities where they could live for a few decades, wild places around the world where vampires can exist openly, experiences that become possible when time stretches endlessly ahead. As autumn approaches and Bella prepares to begin her senior year of high school, her understanding of what it means to love Edward continues to deepen and mature. She's moved beyond the initial fascination with his supernatural nature to a profound appreciation for the person he is, his kindness, his intelligence, his deep capacity for love, his struggle to maintain his humanity despite the predatory aspects of his vampiric nature. Her conversations with Charlie take on new poignancy as she contemplates the future changes that her love for Edward will eventually require. Charlie's happiness in her happiness, his satisfaction with seeing her settled and thriving in Forks, his growing respect for Edward as a young man who clearly adores his daughter. All of it makes more difficult the knowledge that she will someday have to leave him behind for reasons she can never fully explain. The friendships she's built at school also become more precious as she realizes their temporary nature. Jessica's enthusiastic plans for their senior year, Mike's continued friendly attention, Angela's quiet supportiveness. These normal teenage relationships represent a part of life she'll eventually have to sacrifice for love, and the anticipation of that loss adds bittersweetness to every casual interaction. Her academic work takes on different meaning as she considers whether completing high school is simply maintaining appearances or represents her last opportunity to engage with purely human intellectual pursuits. Her essays in English class, her research projects in history, her careful laboratory work in biology, all of it becomes more precious because it may be her final experience of learning in purely mortal terms. The books she reads during this period often focus on themes of transformation, love that transcends normal boundaries, the costs and rewards of choosing extraordinary lives over ordinary ones. Her reading becomes a way of processing her own situation, of finding in literature the wisdom of others who have faced impossible choices and found ways to honor both love and conscience. Throughout these months of deepening love and growing intimacy, Edward continues to wrestle with the moral implications of Bella's desire to join him in immortality. His internal conflict isn't visible in his treatment of her. He remains as devoted, as tender, as completely committed to her happiness as ever. But in quiet moments, we glimpse the weight of responsibility he feels for the choice she wants to make. His conversations with Carlyle during this period reveal the depth of his moral complexity. Having been transformed at 17, Edward understands better than his adoptive siblings what it means to have one's mortal development interrupted at the threshold of full adulthood. His fears about condemning Bella to eternal existence in a teenage body aren't simply aesthetic concerns, but reflect deep questions about identity, growth, and the human experiences she would never have the opportunity to complete. His century of existence has given him perspective on human life that makes him acutely aware of what Bella would be sacrificing. He's watched mortals fall in love, marry, have children, build careers, age gracefully surrounded by family, find peace in the natural rhythm of a full human lifespan. His love for Bella makes him want her to have access to all of these experiences, even if choosing them would mean losing her. The music he composes during this period reflects his internal turmoil. Pieces that begin with themes of joy and love, but develop into more complex harmonies that suggest struggle, sacrifice, and the difficulty of choosing between competing goods. When he plays these compositions for Bella, she hears in them his deep love for her, as well as his concerns about the path they're contemplating. His protective instincts, which have always been strong, become almost overwhelming as he contemplates the dangers that transformation would bring to Bella. His knowledge of vampire nature, his understanding of the bloodlust that will initially consume her, his awareness of how difficult their dietary choice is to maintain. All of it makes him fear for the person she is now, the kindness and humanity that he loves so deeply. As winter returns to Forks, bringing with it the familiar rhythm of grey skies and gentle rain, the question of Bella's future becomes more pressing and immediate. Her 18th birthday approaches, and with it the symbolically significant moment when she will be legally an adult, capable of making life-altering decisions without anyone's permission or approval. The town settles into its winter patterns, shorter days, longer nights, the cozy atmosphere of people gathering indoors while the storms sweep in from the Pacific. Charlie works longer hours during the winter months, and the house becomes a peaceful refuge where Bella can contemplate the magnitude of the choice she's considering. The sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of the small fire in the living room, the simple pleasure of hot chocolate on cold afternoons. All of it becomes more precious as she considers how much of ordinary human comfort she's willing to sacrifice for extraordinary love. Her relationship with Edward during these contemplative months takes on even greater tenderness and intimacy. They spend hours talking through every aspect of what transformation would mean, not just for her, but for their life together. Edward's willingness to engage in these conversations, despite his personal reservations, shows his deep respect for her autonomy and his recognition that this must ultimately be her choice to make. The Cullen family's preparations for the possibility of Bella's transformation reveal how seriously they take their responsibility for anyone who joins their unique family. Carlisle's medical expertise, Alice's visions of possible futures, even Rosalie's reluctant but genuine concern. All of it demonstrates their understanding that bringing someone into their immortal existence is a sacred responsibility that they've never taken lightly. In the quiet hours before dawn, when Charlie is asleep and Edward sits vigil by her bedside, Bella often finds herself reflecting on the nature of the love that has transformed her life so completely. This isn't the desperate passion of novels or movies, but something deeper and more enduring. The recognition of another soul as essential to one's own existence. The willingness to reshape one's entire life around the reality of that connection. Her love for Edward has taught her that true intimacy requires complete honesty, not just about desires and dreams, but about fears and uncertainties. Their ability to discuss the most fundamental questions about existence, morality, and the meaning of eternity shows how completely they trust each other with their deepest vulnerabilities. This trust, built through months of challenges and revelations, has become the foundation on which all their other feelings rest. Edward's love for her has revealed dimensions of himself that centuries of existence had never fully developed. His protectiveness has evolved into something more complex. Not just the desire to keep her safe, but the recognition that true protection sometimes means supporting someone's right to make dangerous choices. His willingness to consider transformation, despite his personal opposition to it, shows how love can require us to act against our own preferences in service of another person's authentic needs. The way their love has affected the entire Cullen family demonstrates how genuine connection creates ripples that extend far beyond the original couple. Alice's delight in gaining a sister, Esme's maternal joy in seeing Edward so happy, even Rosalie's eventual acceptance of Bella's place in their lives. All of it shows how love can transform not just individuals, but entire communities. As Bella contemplates the true meaning of immortality, she begins to understand that Edward's hesitation about transformation isn't just protective concern, but reflects his deep comprehension of what eternity actually means. Forever isn't just a very long time. It's an entirely different relationship with existence, with meaning, with the preciousness that comes from knowing that moments will never come again. Edward's descriptions of his century of existence before meeting her, the loneliness, the search for purpose, the gradual development of the discipline required to maintain their alternative lifestyle, help Bella understand that immortality without love would be a burden rather than a gift. His stories about the decades he spent believing he was damned, isolated from both human and vampire society by his family's unusual choices, show her that eternal life only becomes meaningful when it's shared with others who understand the weight of that existence. The way the Cullen family has created meaning in their immortal lives through love, service, art, the patient accumulation of knowledge and wisdom, provides Bella with a model for how she might approach her own eternity. Each family member has found ways to use their supernatural abilities in service of something greater than themselves. Whether it's Carlisle's medical practice, Alice's gift for helping others, or Edward's music that expresses emotions too complex for words. Bella's growing understanding of these complexities doesn't diminish her desire for transformation, but rather deepens her appreciation for what she's choosing. She begins to see immortality not as an escape from the limitations of human existence, but as an opportunity to love more deeply, serve more completely, and experience beauty on a scale that mortal life couldn't accommodate. As our gentle journey through this story of extraordinary love comes to its close, we find ourselves in the peaceful twilight of a Forks evening, where the mist rises softly from the forest and the last light of day filters through clouds that seem to hold all the colors of a watercolor painting. Bella and Edward stand together at the edge of the woods behind her house, their hands intertwined, their faces turned toward a future that holds both uncertainty and infinite possibility. The love they've discovered and nurtured through months of revelation, danger, and deep conversation has proven itself capable of bridging the vast differences between their natures. More than romance, more than attraction, more even than the profound recognition of soulmates, theirs is a connection that has transformed them both into better versions of themselves. Edward has learned to hope for a future he never dared imagine. Bella has discovered depths of courage and commitment she never knew she possessed. The decision about her transformation remains ahead of them, not as a source of conflict, but as the next step in a conversation that will continue for as long as they exist. Their love has taught them both that the most important choices in life can't be rushed, that wisdom comes from careful consideration of all the factors involved, and that true partnership means supporting each other through the complexity of impossible decisions. Around them, the Cullen family continues their careful, loving existence, Carlisle and Esme tending to their eternal love, Alice and Jasper finding joy in each shared moment, Rosalie and Emmett celebrating the passion that has sustained them through decades together. This family, bound not by blood, but by choice, by shared values, by the commitment to preserve their humanity despite their supernatural nature, represents the life that awaits Bella if she chooses to join them. In the distance, Charlie's police cruiser pulls into the driveway, and the light comes on in the kitchen window, where he'll prepare a simple dinner and maybe watch a baseball game before bed. His love for his daughter, his pride in the young woman she's become, his quiet satisfaction in the life they've built together in Forks, all of it represents what Bella would eventually leave behind. The ordinary human love that has shaped her into someone capable of extraordinary love. The town of Forks itself seems to rest peacefully around them, its residents settling into their evening routines, unaware of the supernatural love story that has unfolded in their midst. The high school where Bella and Edward met, the forests where they've shared so many meaningful conversations, the very air that carries the scent of rain and growing things. All of it has become sacred space where two souls found each other across impossible circumstances. As the mist continues to rise and the light continues to fade, we leave them there in that perfect moment of possibility, their love proven strong enough to weather any storm, their commitment to each other deep enough to last through whatever form of existence they choose to share. The future stretches ahead of them like an unwritten song, full of melodies waiting to be discovered, harmonies waiting to be created, beauty waiting to be shared between two souls who have found their perfect complement in each other. In this gentle twilight, surrounded by the eternal green of the Pacific Northwest, blessed by a love that transcends the boundaries between mortal and immortal existence, Bella and Edward stand ready to write the next chapter of their extraordinary story. And as we drift away from their world and back into our own dreams, we carry with us the peaceful certainty that love like theirs, patient, honest, transformative, and true, represents the very best of what any existence, mortal or immortal, can offer. The rain begins again, soft and welcoming, drumming gently against the leaves and creating the lullaby that will sing us into sleep, where perhaps we too might dream of love that changes everything, of connections that bridge impossible differences, and of the quiet magic that waits for those who are brave enough to open their hearts to the extraordinary possibilities that hide within ordinary moments. And in this peace, in this gentle conclusion to our time in Forks, we rest, knowing that somewhere in the mist and the music of the rain, love continues its patient work of transforming the world, one heart at a time, one choice at a time, one perfect moment at a time.
you.